Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of TradesTalk. Today we have Maggie back in as co-host, which I am excited about. We have a special guest, Chris O'Donoghue. Chris runs the Great Canadian Landscape Company. He started that about 25 years ago. They have about 50 employees, 10 million in revenue. They're doing snow, they're doing maintenance, construction. They're located in Vancouver, Canada. The reason I share that with you is we actually don't talk much about landscaping and much about his company because we go so deep in this idea of self-care and taking care of yourself first before the business and being the best leader you possibly can be. Guys, this episode, it's really a moving episode. For me, it was, and it really struck a chord within me of just how powerful our positions are as leaders within our teams, as leaders within our business, and leaders in the industry. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's a little longer than most because of the content, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of TradesTalk. Got a special guest with us today, Chris O'Donoghue from Great Canadian Landscape Company. Chris, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
We're excited. Well, Chris and I met on a trip of a lifetime, a heli-skiing trip with Mark Bradley and the team up in the British Columbia mountains. And Chris, we were just talking about that trip, but how epic was that getting up into the mountains a couple months ago?
Yeah, it was, as I said, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to be amongst like-minded individuals that all have similar beliefs, I think, in the industry and where we're going and what we can do with it. But also being one of 16 people going up and down the mountains for 3.5 days by helicopter. There's no lines, there's no waiting other than, waiting between the groups to get picked up and skiing through 12 inches to 18 inches of fresh powder that had just arrived a couple of days before we got there. And yeah, it was just, we had bluebird days every day. It was, bluebird skies, and it was epic. It was unreal.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I wasn't on that trip, and I'm now realizing how much FOMO I have from not being on that trip. So I'm meeting Chris for the first time, but Chris, for other people like myself who are like, how do I get to be on a trip like this? Like, where did you start by getting the opportunity to go?
Mark Bradley planned this trip. It was through LMN, which is Landscape Management Network originally, but now it's a software company that he recently sold. And it was his last trip of working for the company, technically. That was it. Like, he was finishing up his career.
His last write-off.
Yeah, exactly. I'd reached out to Mark in November of 2024. And I've known Mark since he started LMN. I was one of the first users of LMN on the West Coast in Vancouver. When they started, him and Mike had come out and were talking about this new software that was going to revolutionize the landscape industry. And this was about 16 years ago. And we started using their software for quoting and estimating. And then they've expanded to time tracking and data. And like the software is endless now of where they've brought it to. I was joking with Mark when I saw him in Toronto. I was like, I would have loved to still see the original version. Like, I don't even remember what the original version of the software looked like, but like to go back in time and like live that and see that would be so cool because like it's come so far in 16 years. Right. And, for us, he brought together a bunch of people that, were in the landscape industry or construction industry, and got together to chat and ski and do what we love and talk. And that's really what the trip was about.
Yeah, a lot of people can see these types of trips and just say like, oh, these are people blowing off steam or having fun. But in my opinion, from an outsider's perspective, I feel like these trips are so crucial to, taking your company to the next level, establishing relationships, all of that. So outside of the fun, you want to, Justin or Chris, you want to give us a little insight on like what was discussed or, how the value you saw in it outside of just the really cool, dope ski experience?
I mean, I'll start a little bit, and then I want to kick it to Chris, because like for me, the level of adrenaline and emotional impact you have when you're on the mountain during the day, like taking a helicopter up into the woods, up into the very, very glacier tops of British Columbia, and then getting the just all-time conditions, the best like blower powder, just amazing conditions. Sharing that with amazing people that some you may know, some you may have just met a day ago, but you're like hugging and literally crying together because it's such a beautiful experience. It was really one of the most amazing but emotional things I've done. And then you come back to the lodge, which is like this like not fancy but really comfy little spot with a fire, and you're sitting around, and Mark Bradley's got this way of just like pulling it out of you, and he facilitated these like fireside chats that felt completely organic and not forced at all, and they weren't. And you just start sharing like really deep emotional stuff about your journey and what you go through, and all together you bond about these journeys we go through as landscapers, because this industry is very, very hard, and it's very unforgiving. Like it doesn't give a lot back until these like big moments where you're like, oh my God, this is the best industry ever. Then you'll go through 6 months of kind of like really, really difficult times. So I think that was, for me, the biggest takeaway was we're in one of the best industries in the world, maybe the best, and we're in it at the best time. And the opportunities ahead of us are amazing, but the trials, the tribulations, the challenges are real. And you know, Chris and I bonded. We got to know each other over the course of 4 days. I feel like I'm talking to a good friend that I've known forever now, even though we only spent 4 days together. So I don't know, Chris, what's your take on that, man? Like, I almost get emotional just talking about it, honestly.
It's not just let's go skiing, get wasted. Like, that's not even the intention. Like, the drinking side is not even there. Like, you know, everyone let loose on the last night a bit more, but the rest of it, it's like you aren't getting the purpose wasn't for that. You know, you'd have a couple of social beers, or if you weren't drinking, you know, there was regular cocktails, like non-alcoholic cocktails. Like it was about that experience. Like you'd spend all day together skiing in a group, getting to know these people that, you know, most of us didn't know each other before we went on it. And we left with potentially lifetime friends. And because of our bond around landscaping or the industry or who we were able to create this new social network of people that are all there for the right reason. You know, they live in the world of abundance, not the world of scarcity, like sharing information, talking about what's going on. And it's something that I think is often forgotten in our industry. Like, I have a group of people that are all competitors. Like, we're literally all competitors, and we have a group chat and we share documents, we share information. Reality is, no one can do what you do the way you do it. And so if just because you share a document, like, you know, like let's say it's an SOP on how to install paving stones, they're going to modify it and they're going to make it their own because they have their way of installing paving stones. But why not give that document that saves them an hour of typing it up and helping them out? And then they modify it for their own company to fit their needs. And I think, like, there's so much work. There's so much opportunity. And we shouldn't be worried about it. Like this is what's so wrong with the industry. It's like people talk bad about other people. And it's like, why? Like, what is the benefit? Like, who cares if I'm more expensive than you are? Like, that's the way it is. Why not try to align yourself and be the same price as me and, like, not worry about the fact that I'm more expensive? Like, why are you leaving money on the table? Mm-hmm. You know, why do you want to be cheaper than me? You know, or why do you want to use that as an advantage? And I think, like, what we got out of this, like, you're having these fireside chats, and like he would basically just throw questions at the table and be like, what's your comments on this? And everyone would just talk. And to have that honest, open conversation with people, it's like there's nothing holding it back.
Right.
And it was like led with integrity, like to help and teach, and we were all there. And I broke down a couple of times, and there was another gentleman there that he rarely cries, according to Mark. But he let out when we're up on the mountain because something hit, and the question hit, and we all got asked the question. It's like, you know, what did we do to deserve this opportunity to be in this mountain right now with these individuals, these humans, and experience this magnificent moment of, like, love and connection with people that we didn't even know a day ago?
Yeah.
That's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
And as business owners, we don't give ourselves enough time for us. We don't. We are our own worst enemies. We don't take time for ourselves to travel, do things with our families. We don't take the evenings off. We don't take the weekends off. We're working 5, 6, 7 days a week.
And when you're not working, you're thinking about it.
You're not working, you're thinking about it. You're always in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like the rabbit hole, right? You're like always digging in, like trying to find like, what do I do to fix this? How do I fix this? What do I do to make this better? What does this person think? I don't know. Like, and I think that's what you get out of it. Like those experiences, yeah, they're not for the faint of heart. They're not cheap, but they're once of a lifetime things. And
you're an investment into yourself.
Take the money with you when you're dead. So you don't want to
when you're on top of the glacier, you're looking at like trying not to go off a cliff and trying not to do this and that and like get down safely and avoid avalanches. You're definitely not thinking about your business in that moment. And that's almost like that like, maybe that's why it becomes so incredible, is because you're in such a deep state of focus, and yet you're in such a deep state of appreciation and gratitude that you have no bandwidth to think about stress, to think about that invoice that you need to send, to think about that client you need to call. You're in it. And so that was, I think
it's a different level of disconnect, complete different level of disconnect than you guys are probably used to. Chris, you said something really interesting that resonated with me, and it's about like, there's enough knowledge to go around. You're sharing knowledge with your competitors. And I actually think that's a unique thing about our industry, is that, the people who get exactly what you were talking about, who get it. And the people who don't. And I think the same thing holds true for people like myself who are vendors. I mean, you mentioned LMN, like they are our biggest competitor. I work for Aspire and they are our biggest competitor. But at the same time, like Mark Bradley, fantastic guy. We're all out here trying to do the best we can for the industry. And there is enough business out there to go around for all of us. And when you hold it so tightly and you hold all that knowledge so tightly and don't respect that, healthy competition, that makes you look bad. It doesn't make your Mark or anyone else look bad. When you're trying to be the knowledge bank instead of the knowledge sharer, it only reflects poorly on you.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I've been at this for 25 years this March. And, the one thing with the new direction that Mark's going with his new program, Leanscaper, like it's all about sharing information and having a community of like-minded individuals, landscapers that are going to literally share. We are like the Google of landscaping that's going to have an opportunity to like share everything freely amongst a group of individuals that are members of this community that also have the same, they're honest, they've got integrity, they've got morals, they're committed to like privacy too, right? Like they're not like
confidentiality.
Confidentiality is huge. Like it's not like they're going to take my information and be like post it to Google so everyone steals it. Like
right.
That's not the point. And I think that the more you give, the more you get. Just naturally.
Well said.
It's why hold it? Because like if I died tomorrow, what would I have gained by holding all that information in my head and not sharing it with my competitors or friends or colleagues or other landscapers or new landscapers? Like, young guy wants to start up, like, hit me. Let's go. What do you need? Like, I don't care. Johnny One Truck that just started, it's not going to like take away like my business overnight. Like he may eventually in 20 years.
Yeah.
But why not? Why do we have to be like that? And I think that's what's so wrong. Like when I started my business, all the old guys, like me now, like I'm the old guy. And like, I remember asking like for advice and they'd be like, oh, you don't want to get in this business. It sucks. It's terrible. Like they would try to talk you out of it. Right. And like, maybe I should have listened looking back, but there's part of it, like, somebody's wondering, like, maybe I should have listened a little bit more, but they also wouldn't share anything. They were so conflicted and worried that you were going to take their business that you were going to I'm like, dude, I'm like 21 years old. You're 45. Like, what are you worried about? Yeah. You have a business for 25 years. You're worried about me? Like,
dude, I funny story. I was looking at hiring a new consultant like a year ago, and helping us with some geographic growth things that we're working on. And they kind of came into the first meeting and was like, hey, I done a lot of research, and I think you've got a few things you're doing a lot right, but a few things that you're doing that you could maybe change. They said, first off, you got to stop giving your competition your playbook. Like, you go to these conferences and you share everything you do. You go post on LinkedIn in deep detail exactly how you set up your org chart, how you do this, how you do that, how you sell. You're literally giving away all your secrets. Oh, and then you do this podcast where you guys talk about trade secrets and you tell everyone exactly what you do. I was like, okay, well, obviously you're not going to be a good fit for me, because that is my exact strategy, is like, I want to curate a community of people who want to be givers, not takers. And the more you give, the more you get. So if I give out all my playbook and my strategy, someone else is probably going to give me theirs. And together we can make better playbooks, because the thought that you know everything and that you're going to hold all this information is completely backwards. It's like, share the information, share your playbook, so people can tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong in their perspective, and you can kind of, sift through that. Maggie, I see you making those faces. Like, this goes against everything we believe in.
No,
I'm not going to say the consultant's name, but yeah.
I'm making those faces for a reason, because I think there's a couple things here that are going through my mind. First, this varies for someone who works across US and Canada with landscapers all over. This varies so much by market. And so I feel like there are certain markets who are very, very open to sharing. And then there are other markets who are like, hold everything tight-lipped to the belt. I'm sure you've experienced this, Justin, on your kind of speaking roadshow that you've been on. Like, you walk into Chicago, those owners,
they're tight.
They're not sharing as much. But
Dallas,
also,
Fort Worth,
like,
way different.
Way different. But then I also think there's a little bit of this, you are appealing yourself by showing your playbook and being vulnerable to people wanting to sell their business to you. I've been very open that I think there is a huge generational turnover that we are in the midst of that boomer generation leaving the industry and retiring, as they should. Like, they're burnt out and they've worked hard, but a lot of them don't have plans except for to sell. And what you're doing is positioning yourself as an ideal candidate to sell because you have your shit together.
Yeah. Well, we want to be the buyers in these in these situations. And it's like, there's 650,000 landscape companies between Canada and the United States. And there's like, I hear a stat, maybe around 20 or 30,000 that are on some kind of software that are doing some kind of like newer age stuff. And I just think of that. And Chris, I think of what an opportunity in the next 20 years to make an impact in this industry, to take that number and get it to 50, 60, 70% of companies that are doing a little better job of creating a better employee experience and pricing their work more appropriately to what it should be for their overhead recovery. But, Chris, as we talk about this, I mean, what's been your experience? You mentioned a little bit, you're in the Vancouver market, right?
Yeah.
How's the Vancouver market? Like, how are you guys with openness and communication within your community?
I think there's a group of us that are more open, and then the rest is will hold it to their chest.
Yeah.
And I think the people that are open, though, are open because they've been in different organizations like Breakthrough Academy or LMN or like seminars and stuff like that. Like or trades coaching, like where they have a coach or they've worked with a business coach that is a believer in this. And then there's a lot that everything's fine. They won't say nothing. They won't tell the truth. Like, they could be literally, a day from not being in business, and like, they won't ask for help.
That's a scary place to be.
Yeah. And like, we've all been there, I think, as business owners. We've all had those deep, dark months where, you have a bad year and you're recovering from it and you're not open about it and you don't talk about your problems. And that's just the way it is, because at the end of the day, you also don't want to ruin your potential for future growth by having those honest, open conversation with the whole world. Like, not everyone, you don't need to like, air your dirty laundry, like, as they say, right? Like, but at the same point, like, you have to be confident in who you are as a company and where you're going to take it, and make sure that your team is behind you on that mission. we went through a bit of a restructuring over the last 2 years to make our company leaner and stronger. And it wasn't easy, but it's brought us out of the end as a company that is still working on alignment and where are we going and focusing on a lot of change. And I believe the next 12 months to 18 months is going to be a game changer for who we are as a company. And it will attract the right people to the company and make sure that our team is there's 45 of us going down the same train, same direction.
That's a lot of people to get in alignment.
Yeah, it is 100%. And then when you've got me, the leader with ADHD that goes off the frickin' train tracks half the time and, takes the left turn and is like, let's get back on the train track.
I wouldn't know anything about that either, by the way.
Yeah, because most of us entrepreneurs aren't suffering from some sort of ADHD or other related superpowers, as they say. It's good and bad, right? And, as a leader, checking yourself and working, like I've really made a commitment to mental health and taking care of me this year, which is something I would not have said I'd done in the previous 24 years.
Yeah.
And which is start with like going to see Mark and like digging into my business and spending a whole day with them and like really trying to understand like my future. I was at a crossroads. Like, what do I do? Do I want to continue with this after 24 years or do I want to not and get out? And
that's, Chris, like that's all within the last 90 days, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's very, very fresh. I mean, how much of that are you open to sharing of like where you're at in that decision process? This is going to be going live in late March. You're going to be at 25 years by the time this is live. Like, what are you thinking?
I think the future's bright. We are in a different trajectory. My mindset's in a different trajectory. Like everything's changed. And it was due to some conversations that happened directly with Mark and another contractor in Kelowna. And through our conversations on the ski trip, and also with my team when I came back from all of those, it's up. It's only up and it's going forward. And I know that we have something really good here. But it's hard sometimes to see the light through the dark. But now it's like, it's the train. Like I just have to try to stay on the train tracks all the time with the team and not like be my separate little train, like going on a little mission to the left.
Yeah. We always think more is better, right? And yet it's better maybe to go more narrow and deeper, which is something I've been trying to embrace more and more. Maggie, I know that your career's been full of changes and all this. I mean, all of us in the last 90 days have gone, like I launched the Disruptors, like all three of us on this podcast right now have gone through some pretty crazy life-changing events in the last 90 days. Maggie, what's been your experience share over the last 90 days of like being in change management and finding a way to be positive and embrace the opportunity and see, as Chris said, see the light through the dark?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. The first, if you don't have an executive coach or sponsor or someone that you can go to that's disconnected from the business to talk through some of these things, because whether we like it or not, like professional overlaps, personal overlaps, emotional overlaps, all of the different things. And it's these decisions impact so many layers. So taking that to an executive coach who can give an unbiased outsider's perspective to things has been something that I've really utilized and needed in the last few months. And then the other thing you mentioned, like staying positive, Justin, and I think as leaders in our respective organizations, there's this stigma that we always have to be the ones who drive the positivity and like are the, have to have our head on straight and be extremely positive all the time. But in my opinion, the thing that can hurt you more than not being positive is being positive inauthentically. And so if I'm coming out there pretending to be positive and pretending to, rah, all these changes are good to my team, like they're going to see right through that. And that's going to create a worse downward spiral. So I've just been very open and vulnerable with my team. Like, do I agree with all these changes? Not necessarily. Do I see the bigger picture? Yes, I do. Is there going to be pain along the way? 1,000%. And I'm probably not going to show up as the best leader every day as a result of it. But I'm human too, and I'm here to always help you navigate through all this stuff. But it's not, you don't have to always be the positive light. And I think that's the thing that old Maggie would tell herself, like, you're hard on yourself, like always be that guiding force. But it's okay to like show who you really are and how you're feeling with some of these things.
Chris, how's that hit for you?
Yeah, like being an empathetic leader is important. Like, you know, but you also need to be able to like show it yourself. Because like, if you're not like, it's easy to care about everyone else, but if you're not caring for yourself,
right,
then you're doing nothing for the team. And I think that's the biggest thing is like where it goes back to is like, I'm choosing myself for 2025 as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm not healthy and happy, and I'm going to be a pretty crappy leader.
Right.
And that's really, really hard to do as someone that's always been there to serve in my mind, to serve my people that work for us, the people that, are, the family that built our business to where it is today. And making sure that they actually feel like they're part of the journey and they're part of the family. Not a lot of people like that saying, it's like, I don't want to be part of the great Canadian family. It's like, but like, you're on the mission with us to make this company successful, right? And it's not my company, it's our company. And not everyone will believe that in every company, and that's fine. It's never, you can't force it, but you can do your best as a leader to try to make them feel like that, or like to hopefully make it better so that it is feeling like that. And that's not easy. That's a freaking terrible task. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but when it is winning and it is working, it's the feeling is just so much better when you walk around the office and there's happiness.
Yes.
Versus when you're walking around the office and there's stress. And when you go through financial struggles like we've had, and a lot of people with the economy in the last couple of years have struggled, pretty hard to like be that positive leader. Like, yeah, everything's freaking perfect.
Right. Especially coming off a huge financial high from the COVID days. Like, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat, like the landscape market was booming during the COVID days. Yeah. And so it was a very high to a very low for sure.
Yeah. And then the COVID hangover finally kicked in and hit us all, like smashed everyone in Vancouver, like really, really fast and hard, and it started with the government deciding to increase mortgage rates, like from 2% or 3% to 7 to 8%.
Yeah.
Well, anyone that was on a variable mortgage in that time completely, just got smashed. Their mortgage payments doubled overnight.
Right.
And they're not pulling out lines of credit
and
to redo their backyard.
In their house, right? And that's the thing with like Vancouver, like our market is very expensive to live in. It's very expensive to own a house. When the average house tear down is $2.5 million to buy a house that you're literally going to demo and build a house on for another $2 or $3 million, having $500,000 in a landscape install, or 300,000 or $1 million, some of these jobs are $1 million. And it's like, but they're building a 10 or $12 million home with land.
Yeah.
It's absurd to so many other people that you talk to across Canada and America. And it's like you're what? You're tearing down a house that you bought $2.5 million. Like, but here's the thing. We have an ocean, we have mountains, and we have a small amount of land between, right? And it's a place that everyone in Canada wants to live. There's a couple other towns across, cities across Canada that people want to live. And that's driven up. And then people from around the world want to come live in a place where you can literally golf, ski, and, swim in the same day.
Yeah. There's no one who has bigger sticker shock on this conversation than me for that, because, I always think California is the most expensive place where Justin's at. And then I hear this, it's like, I'm in the Midwest. So it's very, we still have seen heavy inflation, get my words correct. But it's nothing like what you guys have seen. You mentioned pouring into yourself, and I think it's a theme a lot of us are seeing this year. I was talking to Justin before this call specifically about this topic and how, like, over the last year, I've lost a significant amount of weight, and like I've been pouring into myself, cutting out alcohol, doing all of these things to really, better myself, because when change and hard times come at us, like they've been, like I have to be ready to show up. And all of these things outside, factors, alcohol, the hangovers, the conferences, all of that stuff isn't serving me to be a better leader to my people. And so, yeah, I think that 2025 is the year I'm seeing a lot of millennials pour into themselves.
Yeah. And what's quite interesting is like, it's not the world of, I want to work 5 days a week, 10-hour days anymore. People are like, I only want to work 4 days a week. And you're like, but we work 5 days a week in our industry. Yeah, but I only want to work 4. And it's like, well, how do we tackle that? Right? How do we bridge that gap with a new workforce that is more into, saunas, cold plunges, working on themselves, yoga, meditation, not drinking, whatever. Like, and it's all good. Like, it's all good things for the body, for the human spirit and mind. And I'm a big believer in that now. Like in the morning, I get up, do my spin, do some working out, do a little bit of meditation, and then it's like go time. And that's all before anyone else that is up in my house, and because that's when it's my time and it's for me. Yeah. And if you don't choose yourself, then how are you supposed to be a good leader? And how do you lead by example if you're not choosing yourself and you're coming into work every day hungover, or like, you're leaving at 4:00 and they catch you at the local cactus club and you're getting wasted. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to bode well for your team morale. If you're like the guy that's getting wasted, not showing up to work, sober every day, ready to work, like pumped up, fueled with, the right intentions. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, if you want your teams to be leaders, you have to be a leader yourself.
You really set the ceiling.
Of course. 100%. Like, Mark talks about this too, and like, be a leader of leaders, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone below you is a leader too of their teams that report up to them. So if you're the guy that's always hungover, well, then that basically says to them that they can always show up hungover, and then that shows to their people below them that they can show up to be work hungover. Like, stop it. Just don't do it, right? Like, it's not necessary, and like I don't ever. Work week is work week.
Yeah. Have you read the book, The Multipliers? Justin, I'm looking at you.
I have not.
Okay. I highly recommend it. It's amazing. It leans into this and how you can be a leader that's set up as a multiplier instead of a disruptor. And I know it's kind of a weird term with Justin leading the disruptors, but it has all to in this context, disruptor is a bad thing. In Justin's context, it's a good thing. But it's a fantastic read. It basically shows like really speaks to your soul. Like, what are you doing to lead your team? Like in the little moments to continue to multiply them as leaders.
It's an incredible read, and I highly recommend it, because just the first chapter, if you do nothing else, because some people are like, I'm not going to, just go read the first chapter. You can get it on, ChatGPT probably. It is going to open your mind to how you show up in a meeting. I want to take this back because of the last 2 months, I've given 2 speeches and talks, whatever you want to call them, at Synced and then at the Weathermatic event, SmartCon. And I do polls in my talks and I get some engagement. And so I have these 7 areas of the business that we need to focus on. Because everyone's like, hey, when you get to a point, you need to focus on the business, not in it. But we never have been taught of how to work on the business. And so I created these 7 buckets, and I'll say them to you guys right now. It's vision, it's culture, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and technology. And those are the 7 areas that if you're going to work on the business, you should work in one of those areas. And almost everything in the business I've found will wrap up under one of those. But I realized there's an 8th, and really I now make it number 1 area that you need to work on, and that is self-care. Because just like in the airplane, when they say, hey, put the oxygen mask on yourself, then your child, like, if you pass out from hypoxia, you're not going to be able to help anyone in that plane. You are literally passed out and you're done. It's the same thing in the business. If you don't take care of yourself, it doesn't matter how great your vision is or your culture or your sales, your marketing, operations, finance, technology. All that's out of the window if you're not showing up in the best way possible. Yes. So, Chris, I love your me time, your morning time, like self-care. is so important. So I put these 8 areas up on the screen. We do 3 minutes in the audience. Everyone writes down the one thing they need to focus on in each one of those eight areas. And then I ask everyone, hey, if you could only do one of these things you wrote down, what would it be? And then what bucket is it going to be in? And I put scan the QR code, everyone answers, right? Self-care, vision, culture. You get a lot of vision, culture, technology, but by far, 80% of the responses so far, I have the data, and this is about probably in total, maybe 600 people at these 2 talks. 80% have said self-care. That is the number one thing holding their business back. And I would have never thought that, right? Like a year or 2 ago in my talks, I never even talked about self-care because I'm here to talk about how to grow a business. Yeah. But now I realize 80% of the audience and probably 80% of people out there, maybe more, their biggest opportunity is themselves. And we always focus externally on others. So I just think this is a great conversation of how self-care is our biggest opportunity in our business.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. You probably didn't even realize it because you are so good at taking care of yourself. But this leads into...
It hasn't always been that way.
It leads into a topic in a presentation I actually saw last week by Keith McCurrio. And he was talking about... So, Justin, what kind of car do you drive?
Ford F-250.
Okay. And so you probably notice F-250s or F-150s on the road all the time. And what is the most popular car on the road in the United States and Canada?
Honda Civic.
See, you know the answer to it, but like you probably notice F-150s and F-250s far more than Honda Civics when you're driving around the road, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's where your attention goes. And so if you're taking care of yourself and you're putting attention on yourself, and like your attention will go on like, are your employees taking care of yourself? It's this methodology of like when you go to buy a new car and say it's something new, you'll start seeing that car everywhere. Well, if you start focusing on yourself, you're going to start seeing it throughout your team if they're taking care of themselves.
Okay, let's do something real quick. And the listeners, you can play along. So, Chris, I want you to look around your room and count everything that is the color red. So just look around and just count a number. How many things are red in that room? And you guys listening at home, look around your truck. If you're driving, be careful. But how many red things do you see? I'm using red. So how many did you see, Chris?
That's a unique color for Chris, too, because he's the king of red.
Yeah. Exactly. How many?
7 things.
Okay. How many green things did you see? Without looking.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to look for green things, so no.
Exactly. Right? So, like, Maggie, I'm totally, like, hijacking your point here, but I heard someone do this recently on a podcast. I was like, oh, that's genius. But that's the point. Like, if we're only focusing on revenue, profitability, culture, and we're not looking at ourselves at all, focusing on ourselves, then we're not going to see the green things in our life. We're just going to see the red that we're focused on. So, Chris, what's your thoughts on this idea of like focus and self-care? We've talked a lot about it. It's a great topic.
I think it's probably one of the most important things the generation that we live in right now needs to worry about. Look around you. Look how many people aren't taking care of their health, their weight, their drinking, their smoking, whatever it may be. Like it's crazy. Like I've been working on my health journey for a while, and over the last year, I really focused on less sugar, less carbs, and to lose weight because that was my go-to. Like I love sugar. Absolutely love sugar. I love treats. I love sweets. It's, I like my pasta. I like my rice. But I chose to cut out a lot of it. And, I'm down 40 pounds in over a year. And I keep running, well, what's your secret? What's your secret? I'm like, it's easy. Just like cut out sugar and carbs and like work out every morning. Like treat yourself. Like take care of it's your, what's the saying? It's like, it's your shrine, right? Your body's your shrine. Why would you not take care of the only thing that is holding you together, that you live with every day, that literally carries you, walks with you? Like, come on. Like, if your knees go, you need to get knees. You have to get new knees. You have to get, your hip goes, you have to get a new hip. Like, why did your hip go? Well, because you didn't take care of your body, most likely. Like, there's obviously things that cause, people to have hip surgery and stuff. But most of the time it's because they didn't take care of their only vessel, their body, and your mind's within your body. And if you're not taking care of your mind and you're always stressed out and you're always like upset or angry or whatever may be going on, and that negativity is in your life, like if I carried everything negative that went on in my life over the last 25 years, I would have probably had 100 heart attacks and been dead already. Like, yeah. But I didn't, like, I chose not, like, water off a duck's back, like, let it go. Like, you can't, you think about it, you carry it, usually goes away within 24 hours, but like, I don't carry it for the next 10 years about that one client that maybe didn't pay a bill, or the one employee that, like, stole from the company. Like, you know what? Karma's a bitch. Like, eventually it comes back to bite people, right? And it's like, I'm going to let someone else deal with it and, like, and take care of that issue. Yeah. I can't do it. I'm not a higher power. I'm not God. I'm not like anyone like that. Like, that's someone else's job. My job is just to be a good person moving forward and be, act with integrity and honesty with my business and my people and my family, and choose to be a better human and take the right next step forward. Everyone else can do what they want. You want to step on people, you want to talk bad about my business or who I am as a company, go for it. That's your prerogative. That's fine. Like, yeah, is it upsetting when you hear about it? Sure. But like, I can't control what someone else says or does. Yeah. I can't tell someone that they have to get up every morning and go on the Peloton bike and meet me at 6 o'clock in the morning. Will I encourage someone to join me in a ride every morning at 6? Absolutely. And I've done it. And some people have followed through and some people don't. But like, that's your choice.
Yeah. I love
to get up at 6 and work out. I'm not going to tell you have to. My wife doesn't get up at 6 o'clock and want to work out. She hates working out at 6 o'clock in the morning. She wants to work out at 9. That's her choice. That's when she's ready to do it. I'm not mad at her for it. Like, have at it. Right. She still wants to work out. Still wants to do stuff. She wants to be healthy.
Yeah.
She joined me on this journey. We both killed it. And like, you run into people and they're like, wow, what happened? Like, are you okay? It's like, no, dude, like, I chose to like focus on my health.
It's an incredible journey.
Well, yeah, like my dad had quadruple bypass surgery 2 years ago. Wow. I'm like, holy shit, I don't want to have that when I'm 74 years old. I don't want to have, like, potentially die from a heart attack because I didn't take care of my body. So I'm like, you know what? I'm 46. I've got 30 years ahead of my dad right now to stop eating fast food, to do better with my health, worry about my body, and lose weight now, so I don't have diabetes like my whole family that's older than me and my uncles and my aunts and my grandparents. I have a choice. Don't be that person now. Well, guess what? I've started the journey. Hopefully it works.
Yeah.
You never know. It might be hereditary and I don't have a choice. I'm going to get diabetes, but I'm hoping it doesn't.
But you can at least do what you can, right, Maggie?
Yeah. From what I've realized is, like, I feel like everyone's one thing looks different, right? Yours is your dad. And like, for me, it was like, I was having a hard time getting on the floor and playing with my kids. And I was like, I want to be able to run around outside and do all this stuff with my kids and like not be out of breath and all this stuff. And so I think everyone's tipping point is a little bit different. So like, I mean, I commend you because like you're already inviting people in. And I think our job again as leaders is to continuously invite people in, because at some point they're going to realize that one thing that's going to push them to be better. Whether it be their health or whatnot. Like it's kind of, we have to meet them when they're ready for their journey as well.
100%. Like, not everyone wants to stop having a social beer on Friday. That's fine. Like, yeah. But you also have to have those conversations with people if they're getting completely trashed every week, and like, I'm not their keeper.
Yeah.
I think the hardest, the hardest thing is when you have to start distancing yourself from people intentionally because they are dragging you down. And I always have a place in my heart, in my home, my time for my dear friends that I've grown up with. But I have had to distance from some people because every time we hang out, they show up with a 30 pack and like, a third of it's already gone. And I'm like, dude, I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking right now. And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, all right, whatever, more for me. And you're just like, fuck, man, I can't do this every single time I see you. It's exhausting. So you then start to just intentionally distance yourself, whether it's intentional or not, it happens. And that's like, that's a little depressing because you start to lose that relationship with certain people as you start to take your journey into a new phase of life. But I do think when you do that, you find new friends, and you don't replace your old ones or anything, but you do start to accumulate and collect like a different circle of people that you surround yourself with, because people want to be around people that help make them better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot. This is like sparking something in my brain here. And I know this is a real abrupt pivot, but I'm going to pivot the conversation here a little bit, because I want to ask Chris, I have this theory, like you two as business owners, myself as in senior leadership, like we all have these, like we're all in this juggling act. Justin, it leads into the 8 things that you're mentioning. And all of these items, like there are balls that we're juggling in the air, and we have those that like those balls that are rubber, and then we have those balls that are glass. And so the glass balls, obviously we can't drop those while juggling because they will shatter, but rubber ones, you drop them, they bounce right back up, and you can catch them. So Chris, my question for you is, like, on top of all of this, obviously self-care and this new motion and kind of new realization for you after the experience you just went through. And to our listeners, no, they were not at ayahuasca. It sounds a little bit like that, but that's not where they just were. But through all of this experience and self-care revelation, like looking forward, what are your 1 or 2 glass balls that you cannot drop personally to take you where you want to go?
That's a tough one. I would say, like, for me, I've been really, like, my daughters are 11 and 15 now, turning 16. My oldest is turning 16 and going in grade 11 next year. And it's like, oh, wow, like, she's almost out. And then
you have teenage daughters. That's a whole different level of conversation.
My youngest will be going to high school in like a year. And it's like, I think what I've realized is, like, I've let a lot of time go by without putting enough focus on what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And before Family Day weekend last weekend, we were out for dinner up in Whistler, and I opened up a fortune cookie, and it said, family is more valuable than money. And I was like, holy crap. Like, it still brings like emotion to me. I'm like, the timing of that frickin' little fortune cookie that you always wonder, like, how is that possible? You get some of those fortunes that, like, you open it up and you're like, holy, like, this is like, the timing of this is like impeccable. And it leads to this, like, money allows you to do things with your family or to do things in the world. It's an object. It allows you to pay for things, allows you to enjoy things. But at the end of the day, like, your family is so important. And I didn't know that all 24 years of my business today. I didn't always follow that mantra. And I wish I had, looking back, but I can't change time. I can't go back. I can't apologize to some of the people that I may have acted or reacted incorrectly now, looking at it through a different lens. And I think that if they ever listen to this, sorry.
It's okay.
It's like,
yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry. Like,
right.
In the time, that was not the intention to cause an upset or make you feel like I didn't love you anymore, or I didn't treat you correctly in the time. But in the time, that was it. That's what I was going through. It was my emotions. It was how my brain reacted or my body reacted. I've learned that I can be better now. And that's part of the healing journey and working on myself first, knowing that if I don't care for me, how can I care for my family, my kids, my wife? If I'm not my best self, then who are we? And I think a lot of people are really starting to realize that if they don't care for them first, there's no point. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had known that 25 years ago. But you know what? I didn't. I was 21 years old. I was a young guy in college, university, starting a business. And, money changes things. Profit and losses changes things. Business growth changes things. At one point, I thought I was the biggest, baddest landscaper out there. And I probably did a lot of things unintentionally. That looking back, yeah, I wish I could change it, but I can't. I can only change what I do moving forward, because you can't change the past. The past is the past. It's done. Can you learn from the past? Absolutely. And I think, like, that was one of the biggest things we got of when we all were sitting up together in this resort, going back to, like, where we all met, where I met Justin.
Yeah.
is like, we all chose to be there, to be vulnerable, to get to know people. It's uncomfortable. Like literally you're meeting at the airport with 16 people that you don't know, and you're going on a trip to the middle of nowhere to go skiing with these people that you don't know who they are, how they ski, what their businesses are. I didn't know anything. I didn't do any like intel on like
And
who
you're
was
like
on the trip.
packed in a helicopter, like side by side, face to face, like yeah, you're in it. No
You're like
personal
literally
space.
walking out of your PJs the next morning, freaking getting to know these people. Like they're like from all over North America, you know? And it's like, but like they were instant, like, because they all have the same mission, it was like instant family.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't care.
No judgment.
Like, if I had known what I knew now, man, I would have had like way less clothes packed. I would have been like my PJs all night, my ski stuff all day. And like, who gives a shit? You know,
Yeah,
like, let's go. You look back and you're like, you know, you're like, do you bring a dress shirt? Do you need to have dress pants? Like, do you need your dress shoes? Like, what are we going to do for dinner? Like you don't know until you know. And I think it's like everything. And it's like when you go in those uncomfortable situations and you like, and you learn. We're always learning. And I've learned so much in 24 years. This is my 25th year of business. And like, it blows my mind. Like, I remember when I hit 10 years, I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this for 10 years. I remember when I hit 20 years, and it's like literally the last 5 years have gone by. It feels like a year.
Wow.
Like, I honestly can't even believe it's our 25th anniversary this year. It's shocking how fast you grow up, you age. My kids, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm like, I got to start focusing on them at night as much as I can. And less on work. But when that's all you've done your whole life, it's hard to change habits. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm really, 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 like when I spend a weekend and we'll take a time to go spend a weekend, it's like, it's like, I try not even bring, like, I don't even want to bring my computer, but like, sometimes you have to like do something emergency while you're away as the founder or CEO. But I want to get to the point where I don't ever have to worry about it anymore.
Well, I can tell you from one parent to another that the fact that you're worried about that means that you're already doing a good job. And so the fact that your focus is there is like like acknowledging and realizing it means you already are doing the right things. And so I commend you for that, because as a business owner, I can't even imagine how hard it is to separate that and also put intentionality where it needs to go.
Yeah, like it's eventually they're going to be 20 and they're not going to be living at home, or 22 or whatever it is whenever they move out, and then they get married and then they have their own kids. And growing up with my mom and dad divorced when I was young, 12 years old, and I became like instant dad to my brother and sister. And like, I didn't really have the same childhood that, you know, other friends had growing up with their parents still together and living in the same house. And like, I think it's better. It's also allowed me to be who I am today. It taught me a lot. I don't wish any different. It's the way it is. That's the way it was. That's what was the higher power provided me and told me it was going to be what I was going to live through and go through. And there was a lot of trials and tribulations, you know, going through that. But I also believe that it got me to where I am today, because I was put through that situation. And I think you just do it. You just got to do your best every damn day. And that's all you can do. And you're going to fall, and then you're going to have to get up, and you're going to fall, and you're going to have to get up, and you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to say something stupid, and someone's going to be pissed off. And you just have to like apologize and try not to do it again. And yeah, like I used to be a chaotic leader. I lived in a world of chaos, and I'm trying really hard not to anymore. My team basically reminds me when I'm going down the train of chaos. But it's a rarity now. Whereas
that's a damn good team that they can step up and remind you too.
I tell them, like, it's mandated. Like, you gotta like hold me accountable and like make sure I don't cross the line. They have to. I also have to let them do their job, and that's one of the biggest things I'm working on right now. Where the conflict is delegation, learning how to delegate better. I'm not a very good delegator. I tend to just pick things up and do it myself. but I'm working on it very hard. And I think as a business owner, someone that's new, or even someone that's been in the business for 10 years, 15 years, doesn't matter. Like, if you don't trust your team, you got nothing. And I've had a lot of unfortunate situations where I lost trust in individuals over the years, usually due to financial situations. But right now, I got the best damn team to lead me into the future, and I'm hoping that, we kill it. That's the plan. That's the intention. And I know we will because of who they are and what they want. They want the best out for me too.
Yeah.
Most people want the best for you.
It's true.
There's unfortunately some apples that don't. And you just have to pull them off the tree and get rid of them, But yeah,
That's
that.
so well said, Chris. I appreciate you going deep and being so vulnerable and open today in the podcast, because I think there's a lot of people out there that need to hear this. I know I'm listening to this. I'm listening to how can I be a better leader? How can I show up better? How can I take an extra step for my team? And does my team know that I'm open to their feedback? Because a lot of times when our team gives us feedback, like, hey, you're getting into that chaos range, your initial immediate response is to be defensive and to prove like, no, that's intentionally, I'm just doing this because of XYZ justification, rather than just being like, hey, appreciate that feedback. I'm going to work on being better tomorrow. And so I think there's a lot of people listening to this podcast thinking like, wow, I could do a little more self-introspection and show up a little more vulnerable. And it's okay. I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to be the perfect leader. I don't need to be perfect to be successful, because Chris, like you shared with us today, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Maggie's not perfect. Yeah, I would say all three of us are successful. And sometimes the rear view mirror is the clearest spot to look back on and see what happened and adjust going forward. So this has been a really amazing, open, and I think it just an enlightening podcast. So thank you.
One of my favorite episodes we've recorded.
Yeah. Some episodes are just business. Some are, whatever. But this one was like, wow, I knew it would be, honestly. After we spent that weekend together in Canada, I was like, this is going to be deep, and it hit it. So with that, Chris, any closing words to the listeners before we wrap up?
I would say live in a world of abundance, not in a world of scarcity. And the more you live like that and be open to people and share, there's a saying, it's like wealth is health or health is wealth. There's a say, something along that side. It's that line there.
Yeah. And
it's like you gotta share, and just like be willing to like Mark's saying, love and connection. Like the world needs more of that. And like that hit home so hard for me, like this winter, where it's like, it's not something that's talked about in our industry, like love and connection.
No.
We're not very good at it's an industry full of like strong men and women, that, the burleys, like we're landscapers, we dig in the dirt, we run machines, we trim hedges, whatever it is. And like, it's not known for like being a very emotional space. And there's a lot of old school landscape matriarchs that run by the wooden stick and like are pretty brutal with like how they treat their team. And then there's a lot of
I've been victim of that for sure.
Yeah. And they're still there until they retire and they get out of it.
Right.
They'll be there. I think the future in this industry is going to be different. If everyone works on this whole methodology of like sharing, something we teach our kids. Sharing is caring, right? Like it's so silly. It's so.
Can we get that on a really cool flannel? Because I'm extremely jealous of all the flannels. Like I want a bright red flannel.
Yeah, we got red and black, and we got gray and white, and we got all the colors. Yeah, it's the Canadian suit.
Yeah,
I love
you got to hang with flannel if you're up in Canada. So, yeah,
Maggie.
No, it's
closing.
By,
Go ahead, Chris. Finish up your thought. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the more we share, the better we are. It's pretty simple. So, yeah, that's me.
I hate to always be the mother on the phone, but I mean, one of the first things that we teach our kids to do is share. And for some reason, as adults, we don't feel like we need to follow by that. And so Chris couldn't have said it better.
All right, guys, this has been an amazing podcast. All your listeners out there, thank you guys for hanging in. And let's just go do some sharing. Let's spread the word. And if you guys want to get a hold of Chris, he's on LinkedIn. You can get a hold of him pretty easily there. If you are in the Vancouver market, you're looking to work at a company that's all about, well, what he just talked about, hit him up. The great Canadian landscape company. Chris, thank you so much.
They have ocean. They have all the things. So if you want to relocate, apparently it's the place to live.
And he's on a rocket ship. He's going to the moon, man. I know. I'm so glad you doubled down and decided to stay in this industry. Chris, we need more guys like you in it. So I'm, congratulations for 25 years and looking forward to the next 25, man.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.